Making Bob happy. How to appeal to your audience. Let's face it, guys, appealing to your audience can be a pain in the butt. But if you pretend like you know them, care about them, and value their opinion, even if you don't. And actually, some of you actually might hate your audience. If you are, talking about healthcare and you're very passionate about healthcare, you might see those that are against public healthcare as kind of selfish or evil or non-caring. And you're like, I don't know how to argue with these people. But you have to think of like they think, and you actually even at times might have to be like a mind reader. But good readers know that this is just a part of the writing process. In the next few slides, we will go through a scenario that might help you think about your own audience, which is really important. The first step is, remember, you have to think about your papa. So the persuasive purpose in this case is I'm going to convince my audience that background checks should be used when purchasing a gun. In this case, my audience is Bob, a gun owner and lover. My persona that I'm going to try to put out there is that I want to appear as if I honor gun ownership, but only in the hands of the right people. And my method is going to convince Bob that I trust him, just not everybody else. So in this case, this is Bob. My guess about Bob is that if all I know is that he is against gun control, then I might guess that Bob is 1, afraid of losing his rights to own a gun, or 2, is tired of people saying that guns can kill people when in fact people kill people. So these are just some of my guesses. I might have a lot more guesses about Bob, and you might have a lot more guesses about your audience, but just for the sake of this video, I'm just going to stick with these two. So you want to come up with your own guesses and really start to picture your audience as an actual person. So what might make Bob angry? And let's just say he's not saying fairly well right here. What might make him angry? If I say something like, owning a gun is irresponsible, that would make him angry because he could say, hey, I'm a responsible person and I own a gun, so, screw you. If I say that gun owners are only thinking of themselves, he might say, you know what, that's not true. I own a gun because I'm trying to protect my family, or I own a gun because I go hunting and provide food for those around me. Or if I say something like guns are not needed anymore, and he might disconnect and be like, hey, maybe you don't need them, but I need them. So really kind of think about what's going to make your audience angry, or in this case, what's going to make Bob angry. What might make your audience, or in this case Bob, not trust you? So in this case, if I make absolute claims like all gun laws have helped reduce violence, well, that's just not true. So really be careful of anything that starts with all or never, because a lot of those statements simply are not true once you find one example. I could also say something like, if I never acknowledge the good points that his side brings up, in this case, the other side also often brings up it's usually the person and not the gun that is the root of the problem. And that's true. And if I ignore that, he might think like, well, you know what, you're not considering everybody, so I don't trust you. So what might make him consider my argument? So if I show that doing background checks gets the guns out of the wrong hands but leaves them in the right hands, aka his hands, then he might be like, oh, okay, I can think about that. If I point out that reducing gun violence through background checks might alleviate the bad publicity on guns. It's all bad guns this, bad guns that, but if we do some background checks on the people that need them, then it'll leave alone the people that deserve the guns. He might consider that one. And if I acknowledge and agree with his point that people are often the problem behind the guns, and then I connect that to how background checks help keep the guns out of the wrong hands, he might be like, well, okay, I'm starting to see your point. How might I even appeal to his emotions? Well, even gun owners have children, so bringing up the Sandy Hook Elementary and showing that background checks might help avoid some tragedies like this in the future, he might connect with that. But be careful about overplaying that card because it can get tiresome and lose its effectiveness. So don't overplay the emotion card. Finally, the main point is to remember your audience are people. So put yourself in their shoes. What would make you angry if you were them, and then avoid that, and what would make you connect with that, and then go with that.